Birth of a Game Changer. Maravich was born June 22, 1947, in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, son of Press Maravich, a former professional basketball player. Pete grew up in North and South Carolina, developed a love of basketball at a young age. He was a standout high school player, fitness freak, and exceptional basketball talent. As a youth, Pete Maravich was the quintessential team rat. After a successful high school career in North Carolina, he enrolled at Louisiana State University. NCAA rules at the time prohibited first-year students from playing at the varsity level, so Maravich played for LSU's freshman team in 1966-67 and scored a monstrous 43.6 points per game. When he moved up to varsity for his sophomore season, he began the greatest scoring rampage in NCAA history. Over the next 3 seasons, he averaged 43.8, 44.2, and 44.5 ppg respectively, leading the nation in scoring each year. During his senior season, he scored 50 or more points in 31 LCU's games, setting an NCAA record for most points and highest scoring average in a single season. In 1970, he was named College Player of the Year, the scoring machine who changed the game. Maravich holds nearly every major NCAA scoring record, including most career points, highest career scoring average, most field goals made and attempted, and most career 50-point games. And he accomplished all this without the benefit of the three-point basket, which wasn't introduced into the college game until the 1986-87 season. Atlanta Hawks 1970 NBA Draft. The Atlanta Hawks selected the slender 6'5" Maravich with the 3rd overall pick in the 1970 NBA Draft, behind Bob Lanier and Rudy Tomjanovich. Maravich wasn't warmly received by the team's veterans, who resented his $1.9 million contract. The Hawks already had one of the NBA's best shooters in Lou Hudson, 2 of its brawniest rebounders in Walt Bellamy and Bill Bridges, and one of the game's shrewdest playmakers in Walt Hazard. Maravich replaced Joe Caldwell, who had jumped to the American Basketball Association after the 1969-70 season. In any event, Pistol Pete made an immediate impact in his first season. He scored 23.2 ppg, good for the 9th in the league, and was named to the NBA All-Rookie team. Atlanta, however, slumped by 12 games. The team had finished 48-34 the previous season, winning the Western Division and advancing to the division finals. With Maravich aboard, the 1970-71 Hawks finished 36-46, and in the second place behind the Baltimore Bullets in the new Central Division. Atlanta fell to the New York Knicks in the conference semifinals. The Pistols' final year with Atlanta was his highest-scoring NBA season yet, and the team's worst during his tenure. He poured in 27.7 ppg in 1973-74, second in the league to Buffalo Braves center Bob McAdoo, 30.6. The Hawks, however, faded to 35-47 and missed the playoffs. Maravich played in his second NBA All-Star game during the season and scored 15 points in 22 minutes. Meanwhile, the expansion New Orleans Jazz were preparing for their inaugural 1974-75 season. The team needed a marquee player, and who better to launch the franchise than the greatest basketball legend in Louisiana State history? The Jazz shipped out Dean Meminger, Bob Kaufman, 2 future first-round draft choices, and 2 future second-round draft choices in order to bring Maravich back to Louisiana. After 4 impressive seasons in Atlanta, the Pistols fired mostly blanks in his first year in New Orleans. He scored only 25.5 ppg, but shot a career-worst .419 from the field. Maravich worked hard on other aspects of his game, however, recording career highs in rebounds and steals and averaging 6.2 assists per game. Not surprisingly, New Orleans endured a difficult first season, a typical expansion mix of aging veterans, journeymen, and unproven young talent. Different players wore Jazz colors during the season. The Jazz stumbled to a 23-59 record, worst in the league, overcoming the challenges. The next couple of years saw Maravich peak as his skills savvy and showmanship came to fruition. Still flamboyant, he managed to make his flashy moves not only decorative but also effective. And although Maravich teams weren't winners, the Jazz did acquire a few good players such as Leonard Truck Robinson, thereby distracting opponents from concentrating solely on Maravich and consequently freeing him up. His sleight of hand with the ball, his creative shooting were unbelievable, and his delight in the game was plain to see. In 1975-76, Maravich was occasionally sidelined with minor injuries. He played only 62 games but shot career-high .459 from the floor and raised his average to 25.9 ppg, third highest in the league behind Makaju and the Los Angeles Lakers' Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The young New Orleans team began to show signs of life as well. The Jazz finished 38-44 and vaulted out of the Central Division cellar, leaving last place to Maravich's former team, the Atlanta Hawks. Pistol Pete was rewarded during the postseason with his first selection to the All-NBA First Team. The following season was Maravich's finest as a professional. He saw action in 73 games and led the NBA in scoring with a career-best 31 ppg. He scored 40 or more points 13 times, the most in the NBA that season, and he led the league in total points, field goals attempted, and free throws made. On February 25, 1977, he scored 68 points in a game against the New York Knicks despite the efforts of defensive ace Walt Frazier to bottle him up. He returned to the NBA All-Star Game in 1977 and earned his second straight berth on the All-NBA First Team, fighting to the very end despite knee surgery. Maravich missed 32 games in 1977-78 because of a combination of surgery on one knee, a bacterial infection, and tendinitis in his other knee. He would be on the sidelines often throughout the rest of his career. He tore up one knee against Buffalo in classic Maravich style. Instead of just throwing an outlet pass, he jumped into the air to whip a between-the-legs pass down 3/4 of the court. He landed awkwardly and never played with his old joy and abandon. In his 50 appearances that season, Maravich threw in 27.0 ppg to the top Jazz. Although he didn't play enough games to qualify for the league's scoring crown, Maravich earned another All-Star selection in 1978, as well as a berth on the All-NBA second team. Meanwhile, the Jazz climbed slowly toward respectability, finishing 39-43 but missing the playoffs by 2 games. His knee problems were proving too tough to overcome. Although Maravich's game was not built on fundamentals, it did require precision, and his brace encased knee slowed him down and turned his one quick pirouette into a slow-motion spin-out. He was upset about his diminished playing time, but in reality, he was no longer needed. Adrian Dantley had taken over as the team's top offensive threat, averaging 28.0 ppg for the season, third in the NBA. Maravich played in 17 early season games before he was waived by the Utah on January 17, 1980. 5 days later, he was picked up as a free agent by the Boston Celtics, the top team in the league that year behind rookie forward Larry Bird. On the surface, Maravich was an odd choice for the team-oriented Celtics, but he worked himself back into shape and applied his considerable skills to the unfamiliar challenge of serving as a part-time contributor. Conclusion. Maravich was a complex and fascinating person, and his legacy continues to inspire people around the world. He was a gifted athlete, a creative genius, and a deeply spiritual man. He was also a showman and a great entertainer. Maravich was a true legend, and his impact on the game of basketball will never be forgotten.